Okay, so we're looking at a quick recap of the link word families from last night. Here you can see that we talked about the about family, and this is very useful when we're introducing phrases. And we also looked at the to family, which looks at the reason for intent. So these were the two families we looked at, and then we looked at how to create sentences with these. So we'll bring up an example of that we covered in your lessons yesterday evening. Remember, the about family is very useful when we're looking at how to present ideas in either a paragraph or sentence or something like that. And then the to family is very useful for explaining intent, and sometimes these are used together. So let's have a quick look at the notes that we looked at last night. I'll just bring these all up to a reasonable size that you can all see. Okay, so the focus of this lesson, some of the takeaway points were the link word families, about and to, and then we looked at best practice in English and the IELTS definitions of good English. So these are what we'll use for going forward when we're deciding what's a good thing to aim for in our own English. The 4 pillars of best practice in English writing are task achievement, meaning did you write what you were asked to write about? Coherence and cohesion. Coherence means do your sentences make sense, and cohesion are they easy to understand? That's coherence. Do they make sense, and are they easy to understand? And cohesion means are they built well? Okay, so we looked at that last night. Lexical resource means do you have a good range of vocabulary and can you use it in a natural way? Grammatical range and accuracy, can you use grammar accurately and naturally and to a native level? And that's what we'll be working at together. So even though many of you won't be doing the IELTS exam, we will use this model as a best practice in English writing, so that in your lessons in IT Sligo and your projects, your reports, your essays and your thesis, etc., that you'll be able to apply this principle. So we'll work on this basis of these 4 pillars: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. Okay. Notes on cohesion that we mentioned yesterday. Oh, and by the way, yes, we'll also be looking at the subjunctive, how to emphasize that something is extremely important without using emotion. I've created, as you can see in our learning management system, a separate video with that, so you can just go to that in that video and we'll ring fence that off on its own. Notes on cohesion is by using the about family. They're great for starting a text or a paragraph, which I mentioned earlier. They're great for starting a spoken point or question. So in your lectures you might say to a lecturer, in terms of, as regards, and then you've got the push to start your question. If you use a verb or if you use a verb after any member of the about family, it must be a verb ing. So for example, if you said in terms of verb ing plus object plus complement. So in terms of using lab equipment safely, now you've got the start to your sentence. You can replace in terms of with when it comes to plus ensuring plus safety on work sites. So you can say when it comes to ensuring safety on work sites, so one of you mentioned you were in health and safety. With regard to ensuring safety on work sites, in relation to auditing the books of sole traders, and concerning HR issues in multinational organizations. Why did I skip the verb here? Well, basically because we have an aversion, I suppose, to verb ings together, though there's no grammar rule that says that's not possible, but you will notice a trend among native speakers where we tend to skip the verb and then just go straight to the noun because we had verb ing here and we don't always like to repeat it. So it's more of a style issue than a grammar issue. One of you came up with this question, how would you use in this regard? In this regard is usually used at the end of the sentence or clause, and it's great when you want to avoid repeating an earlier part of a sentence. So when I went to college, I had a problem getting to know people, but my host family soon introduced me to other people, and I had fewer problems in this regard. So here we get to avoid repeating I had a problem getting to know people, etc., etc., and we use that at the end. So in terms of lexical resource, we took the example of students have big problems, and we gave you the example of students experience significant issues. So we're going to always try and up our lexical resort. We're going to up our game. And another example, many students experience significant issues in relation to memorizing detail, and our software can offer substantial support in that regard. And here you'll see that I put in that regard. A question that we could ask, what's the difference between in this regard and in that regard? The answer is none. Quite simply, none. Another lovely little phrase that we often use when we're avoiding repetition is do so. So many students experience significant issues in relation to memorizing detail, and our software can help them to do so. So instead of saying help them to memorize detail, we can say help them to do so. Lexical focus again. Start using these words more. We often have to give quantities to things, so we might say small or big. If it's small, say minor. If it's big, say significant, substantial and considerable. And remember, I call these the three sisters. That's a little working title we use. They have a little brother called minor, not minor, like a lot of our European cousins say, and it's major, not major, not mayor, not major, it's major, which means very big. Then we did go through a few pronunciation issues. Students don't always mispronounce words. You'll remember I said last night that they sometimes overpronounce words. That's often your problem. So a common word, problem, that's not the correct pronunciation, it's problems. Okay, not problems, problems. Okay, it's minor, as in might, minor, major, vital. There's another one that often comes up. Our European cousins often say vital or vital. Critical, okay, it's not critical, it's critical. Critical, okay, so we get some practice with that. And then this word crucial. So some of our Spanish, Italian and French cousins often say crucial, but it's actually crucial, crucial, critical, crucial. We also saw better. Okay, so remember we tend to change our T's to D's and we say better. If you click this video here and focus on seconds 26 to 28, you'll see a funny Snickers ad where there are examples of that. I know that last night some of you were slightly surprised about this. We changed the T's to D's, but you'll begin to see this around you. So there's a lovely opportunity for you to look at that in context. So better, much better. Butter, what you put on your toast, we pronounce it like butter. Okay, so that's actually the same video, so we don't need that. I'll take that out there. I'll take this up here. We'll tidy up our notes a little bit, and okay, and I can take that out as well. Now, just to get on to some other phrases, little, we don't say little, we say little. Okay, bit of can be bitta, or sorry, bit of can be bitta. Can I have a bit of toast? Can I have a bit of cake? Can I have a bit of pizza? Or bit of a. So I have a little bit of a problem. We don't say it like that. We say a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. Okay, just in terms of fluency, some of you have mentioned that you want to speak more like native speakers. Fluency is a combination of a number of elements. One of the elements is compression, so that will be wanna, gonna, gotta, getta, cuppa, coffee, for example. Coffee is just put in there for a cup of coffee. Contractions are very important in terms of fluency, like couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, won't, didn't, haven't. And cutting, we sometimes cut words out. For example, instead of saying it sounds good, we say sounds good, looks bad, not my problem. We don't say this is not my problem. Sometimes in fluency we say not my problem. It is done and dusted, which means finished. We just say done and dusted, done and dusted, done and dusted. Okay. Rhythm, well, we'll talk about that more, but one thing I would say to you here is we don't speak English, we sing it. So try to remember that and implement it. And that's done through monkey see, monkey do. Pay attention to the way native speakers say things, not necessarily what they say. And then for optimum speed, there's a certain speed that you should speak at, and it's a bit like driving your car. Not too fast, not too slow. We call that the Goldilocks zone. Okay, the Goldilocks zone means just perfect, not too fast, not too slow. Okay, not too slow. All right. And compression is a big part of that. So when we compress I have got to, we compress it down to I gotta. If we compress it down to get a, we say getta. So cup of, cuppa. So for example, I gotta get a cup of coffee. All right. I want to compresses into I wanna. And if you want to say do you want to, people often say Joanna, like the girl's name. So Joanna get a cup of coffee. That's often how people will say things. So in compression, compression can be understood. Why? Because it helps your fluency and it helps your listening skills. If you start using compression, then you'll recognize it when you hear it. So your listening skills improve. And then you'll realize the speed is not the only aspect of the if you're watching TV, for example, it's not the only aspect that can be a problem. So it helps your listening skills as well. Okay. Now, a sentence that came up from a student question that came up last night is, so I'll just put this here as a student question. Can I use regarding in the middle of a sentence? The answer is yes, absolutely. Here are some examples, and we're going to include some focus on lexical resource. I faced substantial hurdles regarding, and then you could say something. So I met considerable issues when it comes to study methods. That was one. Met was suggested by one of you, by one of the students. It's not the most popular one, but I came up against, I come across. Okay, if I want to put that in the past, I can say I came across. Okay, so I came up against significant concerns in relation to financial problems. Concerns is more like worries rather than problems. So maybe somebody told you they were worried about something, then that's what concerns means. Another very diplomatic word for problems is challenges. So I came across major challenges with respect to, and then you say financial problems, okay, or financial issues. I suffer from major challenges in terms of asthma. So suffer from is more suited to medical issues. Not exclusively, but that's a pattern that you'll notice. And that's how you do it. So, and Bob's your uncle. That's how it works. So there's a nice idiom. Now, we also looked at the to family, and the to family answers the question why when you're looking for intent. So I gave you the prompt, accountants check their clients' credit card statements, and one of you gave me a lovely sentence, accountants check their clients' credit card statements. Why? In order to ensure that they are not using the card for personal expenditure or expenses or spending. So in order to uses the infinitive verb, and its brother so as to also uses the infinitive verb. But you can expand your lexical resource by using with the aim of ensuring, with the objective of ensuring, verb ing, or as a means of ensuring. Then we saw their cousin so that is a little trickier to do, and that you might have to adapt the sentence a little bit. If you have any questions on that, let's cover that the next time. So when you're using this to family, you use the action and the intent, and in the middle you'll have the to phrase. So I came to Ireland in order to improve my English. I came to Ireland so as to improve my English. I came to Ireland with the aim of improving. What you have to remember with construction, these are the two brothers, in order to and so as to, and they use the infinitive. These pink ones here are the sisters, pink for girls, and we're going to say that they use verb ing. This boy-girl analogy is just a way to help you focus. I came to Ireland with the intention of improving my English. That's how we also use that there. I came to Ireland so that I could improve my English. Alright, so there's an example of how to use the to family. Most of you know those phrases, but ask yourself, are you using them sufficiently? Could you improve the quality of your writing or your presentations by using them? The subjunctive phrases, well, these are it is very important that, it is essential that, it is crucial that, it is critical that, and it is vital that. These are used here. Now, I have included a separate video in your notes, so if you go down, that video on the subjunctive will be self-explanatory, and you should go there. Okay, so this section was just other examples of how to do this in the subjunctive, and then we decided we were going to use the subjunctive plus the to family when we're going to build our sentences. But they're just examples here, and that's what we covered. So if you go to the video called Subjunctive Passive Voice Intent, which is just the next one down, you'll be able to use these. So this is a quick synopsis of everything we covered in last night's lecture. Sometimes students like to go over the actual webinar itself, but you know something, as I said in my notes or in my email to you, it's a bit like a bad joke. You had to be there. So they can be a little bit boring. So I've tried to bring this down into a much shorter synopsis. But that's what we covered last night. Now you can pause,